House will come to order. House will come to order. Please take your seats. Take all conversations to the anteroom. Clerk will ring the bell. House will come to order. A lot of measures left. Chair recognizes.
Oh, okay, so we can't do this. Yeah.
So we're going to do Carpenter. Chair recognizes.
Okay. Hey. Yeah.
Okay, it's a rules calendar.
After this one, we need to do the conference committee report on 9/06.
Can you write that down?
It's out and distributed. It's set for 2 hours.
Okay. We're back on the rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 89. Senate Bill 89.
Senate Bill 89 to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 2 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to officers in the Department of Transportation so as to provide for state investments in railways and railroad facilities and equipment.
Chair recognizes Representative Carpenter to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentlemen will suspend. Some members would like to hear the debate. Gentlemen will continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 89 creates the Georgia Freight Railroad Program. This program came out of the 2015 GDOT State Rail Plan. That plan set forth the list of short-range and long-range projects. This bill creates a line item in the general budget that will be allowed future appropriations if this bill passes. There's no dedicated funding, and it has no effect on House Bill 170 funding. This program will be administered by GDOT with the guidelines of geographical balance and adhere to the state's gratuities clause. It's broken down into 3 sub-programs: Rail Enhancement Fund, Rail Preservation Fund, and Rail Industrial Access Fund. This program will help meet the future growth of port shipments and divert more freight to rail instead of our interstate system. It was unanimously approved by the Transportation Committee.
There are no questions.
I appreciate your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bill. The yeas were 149, the nays were 13. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for a motion.
I move that the House adopt the conference committee report on House Bill 906.
Representative Dempsey moves that the House adopt the committee of conference report on 906. House Bill 906. The clerk will read the conference committee report.
The committees on conference on House Bill 906 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached committees of conference substitute to HB 906 be adopted.
The chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey to explain the committee of conference report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As the night is late and we're trying to get measures out, this involves 3 bills that have already passed relating to the Division of Family and Children's Services. The first bill was HB 972, passed in the House with overwhelming support and will give the state access to federal funding for extended youth services, allowing the Division of Family and Children's Services to provide foster care services to youth who have aged out of foster care up to age 21. HB 906 will allow us to make changes to the legislative and judicial branch as it applies to getting documents and information by requests. One eliminates exemptions to request, and the other portion to protect the names of foster parents, their personal information, just the same way that we protect our state employees' information. HB 927 is a bill authored by Representative Nimmer, which passed the House unanimously. This measure ensures that necessary information will be given to a child's foster or adoptive family, such as medical and court-related information, as quickly as possible, if not immediately. That is what the 3 bills do, and it will help us to make sure that we can take care of the important needs of our foster care families. If there are any questions, I will take them. If not, Madam Speaker, I will yield the well and ask for your favorable support.
The lady has a question. The chair recognizes Representative Reeves for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Thank you so much, Chairman Dempsey. Is it not true we've done a lot of work this session to benefit foster kids, and this bill, by protecting the privacy of foster parents, will in effect encourage more parents to foster children in the state of Georgia?
It absolutely will, and that is so important. Thank you for your continued work as well. Madam Chairman, the night is late, and there's so many people waiting also to get their bills out. I will yield the well and ask for your favorable support.
For what purpose does Representative Thomas rise?
Hello. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this is a really good bill, and we have foster children in the gallery that are here today to support this bill?
The chair is certain the lady knows of which she speaks. On the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 906, all in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 906, the yeas were 169, the nays were 0, and the House has adopted the conference committee report. Chair recognizes Representative Harrell for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 729.
Keep me company here. Representative Harrell moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 729. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 729 to be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding ad valorem taxation of property.
Chair recognizes Representative Harrell to explain the motion.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Section 1 is what passed previously that just removes outdated language from our property tax bills. Section 2 is an amendment added in the Senate that ensures that you pay intangible tax once and are not double taxed. I will be glad to answer any questions if there are. Otherwise, I'll yield the well and ask for favorable consideration.
There are no questions, and the gentleman has yielded the well on the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 729. All those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 163, the nays were 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 729. Chair recognizes Chairman Nimmer for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the House agree to House Bill 982 by substitute from the Senate with the House amendment.
Okay, 1 second. Chairman Nimmer moves that the House...
I know what you meant.
That the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House to House Bill 982. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 982 be titled, an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 11, and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to dependency proceedings so as to change provisions relating to relative searches conducted by DFACS.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nimmer to explain the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you House Bill 982 by way of a substitute with a House amendment on it. This bill, the underlying bill, is a bill that you passed unanimously, and every amendment in here is stuff that you passed unanimously dealing with DFACS. I had full support of this body and full support of the agency to move forward in the state. And for the sake of time, Madam Chair, I'll take questions if there are any. If not, I ask for your favorable consideration.
There are no questions, and the gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House, is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House to House Bill 982, all those in favor will vote yes, all those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas are 162, the nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 982 as amended by the House. The chair recognizes Representative Spencer for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am making a motion for a conference committee.
Representative Spencer moves that the House insist on its position in disagreeing to the Senate substitute amendment to House Bill 605 and that a committee of conference be appointed. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 605 to be titled, an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 3, Title 9 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to specific periods of limitation so as to change provisions relating to the revival of certain claims involving childhood sex abuse.
Is there objection? The chair hears none. The House has insisted. The chair appoints Representative Spencer of the 180th, Chairman Golick, and Representative Reeves as a committee of conference on House Bill 605. We're back on the rules calendar. The all right. Well, let's go. All right. We're on the agree calendar. Chair recognizes Chairman Nix for a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 785.
Chairman Nix moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 785. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 785 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 12.8.22 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating the definitions relative to solid waste management so as to modify certain definitions and enact new definitions.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nix to explain the motion.
Thank you. House Bill 785 is the bill that we have that would encourage the plastics recycling industry in the state. We passed it 168 to 0. The Senate made some relatively minor changes just to ensure that these facilities would be defined as manufacturing facilities rather than solid waste facilities. And I think that they strengthened it up. They actually tightened up the language, and I would appreciate your favorable vote to agree with that Senate substitute. Madam Chair, I would be glad to answer any questions. If not, I'll yield the well.
There are no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 785, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 166, the nays were 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute on House Bill 785. Let's go ahead and do dollar. Chair recognizes Chairman Dollar for a motion.
Thank you, Speaker. I ask that the House agree to HB 917 as I ask that the House agree to House Bill 917 as amended by the Senate and amended. Agree to the Senate amendments as amended by the House.
Chairman Dollar moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended by the House for House Bill 917. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 917 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16.8.60 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the reproduction of recorded material, transfer, sale, distribution, circulation, civil forfeiture, and restitution.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dollar to explain the motion.
Thank you, Speaker. House Bill 917 is an issue that this House passed out unanimously. It's dealing with copyright law. It is updating current code that includes things like cassettes and CDs to include electronic devices such as thumb drives and hard drives. It mirrors federal code. Again, that passed out unanimously. The Senate added an amendment which I agree to. Currently there are some local governments that are fining retail centers, your grocery stores, your Walmarts, if grocery carts are stolen and left abandoned. What this does is it says that if somebody else breaks the law by stealing a shopping cart and abandoning it, that the store will not be held liable. And then Lastly, my amendment, all it does is add it adds an effective date, and that's it.
There are questions?
It's late, Speaker. I'm going to yield the well. Ask for the body's consideration on the measure. Thank you.
For what purpose? All the questions have been waived. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. For what purpose does the minority leader rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
What is the LC number of the amendment?
It's on the up on the wall. It's AM 340793. It's the dollar amendment. For what purpose does Chairman McCall rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
What I'm trying to make sure that Representative Dollar's amendment is one that he agrees to do. Is that correct?
For what purpose does Chairman Dollar rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the amendment number that the Speaker just said, AM 340793, is the dollar amendment, the one that we were voting on now?
Okay, thank you.
The one that we just approved. Yes, sir.
That's correct. There are no more questions. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute, House Bill 917, as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 167, the nays were 3. And the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 917 as amended by the House.
The chair wants to acknowledge on the floor of the House a former member of this body, now a member of the judiciary, Judge Mike Jacobs. Judge Jacobs. Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for a motion.
I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 853. We are going to the rules calendar. The first rules calendar for today. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Chairman Dempsey moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 853. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 853 to be entitled, an act to amend Part 1 of Article 6, Chapter 2, and Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the short title and purpose of the Quality Basic Education Act, so as to provide that children placed in psychiatric residential treatment facilities pursuant to a physician's order may not be charged tuition.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey to explain her motion.
This bill passed with all of our support. Basically, it's to make sure that children in our psychiatric treatment centers, if they are there under a physician's order, which is different from being there because of an agency, that they are also afforded the same opportunities to continue their education and graduate on time. The Senate made a few changes just to make it even better. In all honesty, they explained a few words that needed to be broadened, I would say, to make sure that any child who is there, whether they're in a home study, a private school, or out-of-state student, if sent by a physician's order from a parent. They also created a memorandum of understanding between the system and the residential treatment center. If there are any questions, I will take them. If not, Mr. Speaker,
We
I
have
will.
no questions.
Thank you. I will yield the well.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 853, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 172, the nays are 0, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 853. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 430.
On the continued. Senate Bill 430 to be entitled, an act to amend our Title 15, Chapter 2, and Title 21, and Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to courts, primaries, and elections generally, and ad valorem taxation of property, respectively, so as to modify the compensation of various local government officials.
Chair recognizes Representative Blackman to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, fellow members. Senate Bill 430 just updates our code to accurately reflect the current base compensation levels. They haven't been updated since 2006, and this is our responsibility for these constitutional officers. Does not increase anyone's pay, current or future. There is an amendment offered up by Leader Trammell and myself, a friendly amendment that I would encourage you to agree to and ask for your favorable consideration. I'd be happy to answer questions if there are any.
You do have a question. Do you care to yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Beverly to your left for he waves. No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd asked for the amendment to be agreed to. It removes Section 11 and this body's favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report on the bill. There is a minority report. Minority report waives. Is there any, Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
Speaker.
inquiry.
Isn't it true that the effect of the amendment offered by myself and Representative Blackman moots the minority report?
If the gentleman so states. There is an amendment. There is an amendment offered. It is AM 281648. Clerk will read the amendment.
AM 281648 offered by Trammell, the 132nd, and others. Amend the House Committee on Government Affairs substitute to SB 430, LC 288878S by striking to revise when any increase in salary, compensation, expenses, or expenses in the nature of compensation of members of a county governing authority shall take effect on lines 4 through 6 by striking lines 247 through 259 and by redesignating section 12 through 14 as sections 11 through 13 respectively.
Is there any objection to adopting the amendment? Is there objection? Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 430 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Cannon rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that we voted on this bill in March 30th of 2017?
I do not have a recollection.
Thank you.
What purpose does Representative Carter rise? She waves. All members voting for the bill are voting green. Those opposed are voting red. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 430, the ayes are 159, the nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1194.
House Resolution 1194 by Representative Knight of the 130th, creating the House Study Committee on Retrospective Emergency Room Policies. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman David Knight to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. July 1 of 2017, a lady by the name of Brittany Cloud doubled over in pain, went to the emergency room. Her mother, a nurse, had told her it sounded like appendicitis. Once in the emergency room and did scans, the doctors determined it was ovarian cyst, not appendicitis. A few weeks later, this lady received something else, a $12,596 hospital bill that her insurance had denied, leaving her on the hook for it. The problem, these denials were made after the patient's visit to the ER, sometimes based on diagnostics after seeing a doctor, not on the symptoms that sent them, like this lady, to the doctor. This policy has been rolled out so far in Georgia, Indiana, Missouri, and Kentucky. What this does is a study committee to look at retrospective billing, ER billing, that has been rolled out in the state of Georgia. As we have done in the last couple of years, we have paid great attention to the cost of health care to our citizens. This study committee just seeks to look into this measure and to see what is going on with this retroactive ER billing. I'll ask for your favorable consideration of this study committee.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of House Resolution 1194 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of the resolution, the ayes are 168, the nays are 3. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 332.
Senate Bill 332 to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating hunting, trapping, or fishing so as to provide for a hunter mentor program within the Department of Natural Resources. This bill having referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 332 is what we call the Hunter Fisherman Mentor Bill. It's a great bill. A lot of our conservation organizations out there are already doing it, working and bringing new hunters and fishermen into this great tradition and heritage we have. What this does is it creates a outdoor mentor program and creates a mentee, which actually goes through the Department of Natural Resources for training. And it creates a passport for a mentee, if you will. It's a great way to continue to make sure that we're building on this great heritage of hunting and fishing in the state of Georgia, recruiting those young people, not only young people, but also folks who have never gotten out there and enjoyed the great outdoors. I'd ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 332. I'll stand for any questions.
Do you yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Coach Williams to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the gentleman in the
Yes,
well,
sir,
do you
Coach.
yield?
Yes, sir.
Is there anywhere in your bill that deal with noodling? Noodling.
Noodling. You know, I'm not sure that would fit up under that mentor program.
Fishing.
Fish, well, we'll see.
Okay.
Thank you, Coach. I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 332 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 332, the ayes are 174, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 403.
Senate Bill 403 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to primaries and elections generally so as to provide for uniform election equipment in this state.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Senate Bill 403 has been dramatically simplified. We've gone through a long process in the Senate and committee that had lots of debate. What the bill before you is simply this. Senate Bill 403 creates a structure where we make it legal to have a paper ballot in Georgia for statewide elections and creates a commission of legislators to study the process that would need to be put in place to implement that for future years. That's all Senate Bill 403 does. And with that, I commend it to you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report on the bill, a minority report. Is anyone going to give the minority report? The minority waives. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute approved by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 403 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of Senate Bill 403. The ayes are 112, the nays are 60. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House will be in order. You're not going to be able to hear what you're voting on. We have a local calendar. third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. Pursuant to Article 7, Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the state constitution, the following local bills relating to homestead exemptions require a 2/3 roll call vote for passage. Senate Bill 485 and Senate Bill 486. The clerk will read the local calendar.
Senate Bill 485 by substitute by Senator Jordan of the 6th City of Atlanta. Senate Bill 486 by substitute by Senator Jordan of the 6th City of Atlanta.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of the bills. On the local calendar, the ayes are 167, the nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. We are now on to the last supplemental rules calendar for today. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 362.
Senate Bill 362 to be titled an act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education so as to provide for the establishment of an innovative assessment pilot program. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Coleman to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, what you have before you here today is a pilot program that we are proposing that the State Department approve with the cooperation of the feds to allow some pilot school systems. Fulton County has asked to be part of it, Marietta City, and about 10 or 12 other systems to look at the testing they do. Right now, we use the milestone, we use a normative end of the year test or end of course, and we call that a summative. And so what they do, they take everything they've learned for the year and then they test them at the end of the year. The problem with that is by the time you get the results back, you don't know really where the children were and what you need to do. So they're going to be piloting a formative, especially in reading and math, formative testing. And what that will be, they will be teaching a standard, then testing it about every 2 or 3 days. If the children know it, they move on. If not, they know what they need to do to help them. And so systems going to do that. Then we're going to take the several systems, 8 to 10 or 12, that have become part of the pilot, pick the programs that were the best that the systems recommend, and then those will become the 2 or 3 programs we use for testing that would meet the standards for the state in reading and math. So that's what the bill is all about. I ask your favorable approval of Senate Bill 362 to allow this pilot program to take place. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 362 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of Senate Bill 362, the ayes are 171, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 368.
Senate Bill 368 by Senator Kirk, the 13th, Gooch, the 51st, Hill, the 4th, Wilkinson, the 50th, Harper, the 7th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 6A, Title 35, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, so as to add to the functions and the authority of the council. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Reeves to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very simple bill. It just adds a 13th duty to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and that is to assist law enforcement agencies with technical support should they get the funding from appropriations. I will yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 368 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 368, the ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 391.
Senate Bill 391 by Senator Beach, the 21st, be titled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 32, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to the state road and tollway authority, so as to exempt transit service, buses, motor vehicles, and rapid rail systems from requirements.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nimmer to present the bill. Calling Chairman Nimmer. Chair recognizes Chairman Tanner to present Senate Bill 391.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have Senate Bill 391. All this does is an agency bill for CERTA. It's a cleanup bill. Be glad to answer any questions, but it's a straightforward cleanup bill for CERTA.
You have no questions.
I yield the well and ask for favorable
Is there any
consideration.
objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 391 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of Senate Bill 391, the ayes are 160, the nays are 9. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 685.
Senate Resolution 685 by Senator Jackson II, Jones of the 10th, Anderson of the 43rd, James of the 35th, Butler of the 55th, and others, renaming the bed of tidewater on the Georgia coast known as Runaway Negro Creek to Freedom Creek. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Did you turn it in? That require, the first one has 2/3 vote, right? And then if somebody objects, it takes a 2/3 vote. It is. I wish we'd have done it sooner. I mean, I don't know why we didn't do it. Well, I do know why we didn't do it. Chatham County couldn't get one very locally. Hey, Bill, doing a little gaming here. So Mary Margaret wants to make a it's not now. To allow the amendment. Chair recognizes Representative Williams to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that you realize this is a very complicated and detailed resolution. This resolution was almost named the Williams and Earhart resolution. But it very simply asks that we change the name of a creek, because we ultimately make all the decisions on any tide water creeks in Georgia, from Runaway Negro Creek to Freedom Creek. This better speaks to one of the great tourist cities in America. And I was asked by Chairman Shaw if I also wanted to change the direction of the creek. But I have decided, after much consideration, that next year I will ask to move it north, because it is moving south. But this evening, I just want you to help me name it the Freedom Creek. Freedom Creek. And if I get more than 5 no's, I have an announcement to make to this group. I stand for any questions.
Chair recognizes Representative Petrie to your left for a question.
Does my friend yield? Does my friend yield?
I yield.
Is it not true that Runaway Negro Creek is in my district and is a tributary of the Skidaway River?
The gentleman knows of which he speaks.
And is it not true that I absolutely 100% support changing that archaic name and support this resolution?
Thank you, sir, because a trickle of it runs through Liberty County.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
What purpose does Representative Oliver rise?
I rise, Mr. Speaker, to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that Rule 36 be suspended and I be allowed to offer an amendment to SR 685.
The lady has moved. The lady has moved that Rule 36 be suspended and that she be allowed to offer an amendment to Senate Resolution 685. Is there objection to her? There is objection. Does the lady move?
Yes, sir, I move.
The lady moves. All those in favor of the lady's motion to suspend Rule 36 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. No. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 42, the nays are 118. The lady's motion has failed. Did you have something further?
Parliamentary inquiry,
State your
Mr. Speaker.
inquiry.
Do you think it might have made a difference to the body if they had known the amendment was for the purpose of changing the name of the Talmadge Bridge in Chatham County to Juliet Gordon Low Bridge?
That would require speculation on the part of the chair. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on SR 685? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution. The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of SR 685 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of Senate Resolution 685, the ayes are 174, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. House will come to order. This House will be at order. We've still got a few minutes to go. The chair recognizes the chair of the House Transportation Committee, Chairman Tanner, for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House adopt Conference Committee report on House Bill 930.
Chairman Tanner has moved that the House adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 930. The clerk will read the Conference Committee report.
The Committees on Conference on House Bill 930 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives receive from their positions, and that the attached Committees of Conference substitute to HB 930 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Tanner to explain the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 930.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know time is short, but I do want to say this. I want to thank the Speaker for his leadership in this area. This has been a long year, a great deal of work. I want to thank our fellow conferees, Calvin Smyrie, our Dean, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, for all their work over the last several days on this. I also want to thank Charlotte Nash, the Commission Chair, and Gwinnett, who's here with us tonight in the gallery, and to the Lloyd team. They've done a tremendous job. They've been here for hours, stayed up all night going through this bill, and all the other folks have worked with us. I especially want to thank Jenna and Leg Council. I cannot tell you how much she's worked on this, hours late into the night, helping get this perfected, so thank you very much. I'm going to tell you what the changes that the bill has from the way it passed the House. They're not that many, but they are some that are important that I want to mention to you. When it passed the House, it was taking the place of Greta. The way it stands before you today in the agreement before you, it is not taking the place of Greta. Greta will still exist. Greta will still have the powers it has around highways, bridges, doing the DRI, those functions. The transit powers of Greta is being taken into a new agency called the ATL that will be administratively attached to Greta. So it will still exist. The board construct, the way we had it, will all be the same as it was in the HB 930 that passed this House. In addition, the other changes are around the Cobb County conversation. I want to also thank the Cobb County delegation, specifically Chairman Earhart. He has been passionate about protecting Cobb County, but he's also been a willing partner in helping find a solution. In Cobb, we're creating a special commission That commission will be made up of the local delegation and the Cobb County Commission, which will meet to determine whether or not they want to draw a special transit district in Cobb. If they do, by a vote of majority vote of the delegation and a majority vote of the commission, they can do that. If they pass that, then ultimately they can move that forward. But before anything would happen within that district, it would have to go to a referendum of the citizens within that special district. We also removed the language around Uber and Lyft fees. We removed the language around the airport tax. All of that has been removed from this legislation. We made some other technical cleanups. I do want to mention one thing I've received several questions on, and I want to go ahead and clear this up so there's no confusion. But on lines around 138, it talks about a date change. I've had a lot of questions if that was the Delta fuel exemption. That has nothing to do with the sales tax exemption on Delta. What that has to do with is when Clayton came into the MARTA system, we had some language in place that would not collect the MARTA tax on jet fuel at a qualifying airport, and then there was some specific dates, so it only captured that, allowed Clayton to come in. This extends that date out because we feel like Gwinnett will probably look at coming into the system, possibly Cobb, depending on what the delegation decides. This extends that out. It does not take any other sales tax off of jet fuel. All of that remains in place, has nothing to do with the Delta exemption. So let me state that clearly. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, the bill again creates a regional transit authority. The governor has come to the table in this General Assembly, passed $100 million in funds that will go, if this bill passes, that will go to transit in this metro Atlanta region. So I ask that you join me tonight in passing this legislation, agreeing to this conference committee report, and doing a very monumental thing for transit here in the state of Georgia. And I'll be glad to answer questions, Mr. Speaker.
Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Taylor to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Not so much as a question. I just appreciate your efforts working with you over the past year or so with this being all over the state. This is critical to the economic development of our state, and I just want to applaud you for the work you've put in is amazing. And you're probably not going to see it in Dawsonville transit, but the work you've put in is just outstanding. And to my office mate, I just congratulate you, and I would hope everybody vote this bill up.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate all your help on this, listening to me complain, and I appreciate you, and we're going to miss you here in the General Assembly, Chairman.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons to your left for a question.
Thanks, Speaker. Gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure that I clearly understand what you're saying about Cobb County. It's an important issue there. I believe what you're saying is not true, that for Cobb County related to this transit issue, a special panel of Cobb legislators and the Cobb Commission members would have to make a decision by majority vote that would then go to referendum. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it's a majority vote of both the delegation and the commission.
Both.
So that's correct.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And in addition, let me add that they also, the delegation and the commission would also have to approve any contractual agreement prior to that referendum, so you would know exactly what projects you were talking about, what the cost was, et cetera, before the citizens were asked to vote on it. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I know there's other measures in place. I would ask for your favorable consideration on HB 930, agreeing with the conference committee report, and I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. On the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 930, all those in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 930, the ayes are 155, the nays are 19. The Conference Committee report has been adopted by this House. Chair recognizes Chairman Andy Welch for a morning order. House will come to order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of this House, ladies and gentlemen, I come to this well to say thank you. Many of you, if not almost all of you, have reached out to me in some way, shape, or form to express your condolences to my family. And many of you have actually met my father, who passed away last Friday. In fact, about 8.5 hours from now will be the first week anniversary of his passing. I want to say thank you to all of you. And when the speaker or any member talks about this house being a family, that has never rung more true for me or my immediate family than over this past week. I thank you. And before my dad was buried, one of the happiest moments for him, there are many for him, but a happy moment for him in his life relative to me was when I won this seat, 2010. He cried that night. And so before he was buried, I took my badge and I put it inside his coat. This state, public service, representation of people with a servant's heart were what he was all about. And I thank you.
Andy, I think I speak for the entire House. I want to say that we love you and we care about your family. Thank y'all. Chair recognizes Representative Heath Clark for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House recede and agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 878.
Representative Clark has moved that the House recede from its position on House Bill 878. Clerk will read the caption. Page 78.
House Bill 878 to be titled an act to amend Code Section 332444.1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to procedure for cancellation by an insured and notice so as to change certain provisions regarding cancellation of an insurance policy.
Chair recognizes Representative Clark to explain his motion.
Colleagues, earlier today we had 878, and we made an amendment and sent it to the Senate. They disagreed. That amendment added House Bill 519 to 878, but we're going to go back to the original bill as amended by the Senate. 878 allowed for cancellation of insurance policies over the phone. The Senate amendment simply was a friendly amendment that allowed, if a cancellation occurs over the phone, that the insurance company has to provide notification to the insured within 10 business days. And I ask for your favorable consideration.
Representative Clark has moved that the House recede from its position on House Bill 878. That would be an acceptance of the Senate amendment, which would constitute final passage. All of those in favor of the gentleman's motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 140, the nays are 19. This House has receded from its position on House Bill 878. I want you to help me thank a lot of important people without whom we could not do our job. The Page ladies, Debbie Bryant, Dale Burns, Helen Kelly, Marcia Jaspers, and Gloria Ambrose. Let's give them a big hand. Phil Tucker and the house doorkeepers. All the house doorkeepers. The two best house photographers in the nation, Anna Marie Watkins and Carrie Joy Osborne. For Chamber Technology, Brent Cranfield. No, I know. The Member Communications Specialist, Hannah Satchinger. The House Messenger, up here at the podium, Betsy Lynch. The Deputy Messenger, Holly Pitcock. House Budget and Research Office, Director Martha Wigdon, Christine Murdoch, and all the staff. House Media Services under Director Betsy Lynch. The Post Office staff under Director Phil Tucker. The Temporary Session staff. House interns and House Legislative Internship Coordinator Michelle Sloan. House Administrative Assistants and staff, and let me throw in a special thank you again for the last time to Diane Harden. The Clerk's Office, Crystal Rush, Scotty Long, Carrie Vick, Ryan Keene, Chaz Clark, Carlos Ramirez, Trent Hill, and our great clerk, Bill Riley. The Speaker's Office staff, Diane Harden, Leisha Johnson, Holly Pitcock, Kim Aiken, Spiro Amburn, Caleb McMicken, Terry Chastain, Sergeant Vince Mooney, Trooper Darrell Benton, Lucy Groves, and Sarah Snipes. The joint offices, the Fiscal Office under Director Robin Underwood, the IT Department under Director Gordy Rivers, and Legislative Council under Director David Bundrick. Reapportionment staff, Director Gina Wright and her staff. The anteroom staff, Angela Holland and her assistant Elizabeth. A special thank you to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Capitol Police and the Georgia State Patrol. Do I have to do this one? Yes, sir. I'm in way too good a mood. The Press Corps. That don't include you, Sulzer. Chair recognizes Chairman J. Powell for a motion. All right, we've still got some important business to do here. Yes, that's what I was told. House will be in order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a motion that the House adopt the conference report on Senate Bill 402.
Chairman Powell moves that the House adopt the Committee of Conference report on Senate Bill 402. The clerk will read the conference committee report.
The committees on conference on Senate Bill 402 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions, that the attached committees of conference substitute to SB 402 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman J. Powell to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I lost my reading glasses and I tried to borrow some so I could read to you. And Penny offered me hers, and they're blue, and I didn't really want to wear those. So sorry for the delay. This is the broadband bill. It is a culmination of a lot of discussions between the House and the Senate with providers. And what it does is provide basically what we have done in both the House version, the Senate version. We've taken out the EMCs and the rural telephone cooperatives, put them in a separate bill that you voted on earlier this evening, which was Senate Bill 426. This has the grant program. It has the rural broadband community. It's got the mapping portion, and basically is the same but scaled down to some extent. There's one major change in the grant application process. We had originally the grants were going to be directly to providers. That we were told that that violates the gratuities clause, so it had to be redrafted. So it's basically through local development authorities. So you'll see some different language there, but otherwise it's essentially the same thing that you voted on about 4 different times. I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have one question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I will.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons.
Thank you, Speaker.
To your left for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Gentlemen, yield.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I see in the conference committee report a change from the bill that we passed is that the qualified broadband provider, that definition has been changed about who actually fits under that. And before, a local governing authority was listed under that. I'm wondering, I'm supposing, isn't it true that local governing authority is still eligible under, I think, Section 5 of the bill for the grant program? Is that true?
Yeah, the only thing that's really changed is the designation. It is an entity that holds a certificate from the Public Service Commission.
Right.
And a local community, an EMC, any of those can apply for it, as well as the for-profit or non-for-profit. Pretty much any kind of entity can qualify. This just sort of cleaned up the language so that we didn't have to list continuously all those different entities in the bill.
But if you yield for one more question,
Yes,
isn't it true, though, based on what I'm reading in the conference committee report, there are requirements for private telephone or broadband companies that are not there for local governing authorities, as far as the amount of years that they've had to be in business, the amount of customers that they've had, so on and so forth. Those requirements don't exist for the local governing authorities.
Well, I mean, essentially it is anyone who has been in the business or anyone who can demonstrate the capability of providing the service. I mean, that was what it was in the earlier version. That's what it is in this version.
Okay, I don't see that, but thank you, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I would urge favorable consideration, and I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 402, all those in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Mark Morris rise?
Point of parliamentary procedure.
State your inquiry.
Will this broadband work at the 35th parallel of Georgia?
Well, it gives us a shot that we didn't have before.
Thank you.
Members favoring the bill are voting green. Those opposed are voting red. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 402, the ayes are 160, the nays are 3. The Conference Committee report has been adopted. Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 779. There's an amendment on your desk, and I move to withdraw that amendment that's been distributed.
Chairman Powell has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute House Bill 779. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 779 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 3, Title 38 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to emergency management so as to establish the Homeland Security Division of the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency.
Chair recognizes Chairman Powell to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 779 was part of an administrative package on public safety. Passed earlier in the session. This is a bill that we had done that clarified the duties of GEMA, and it established the Emergency Operations Command, and it also clarified that GSACs and the fusion centers, that there will be under the direction of the investigative services at the GBI. The Senate amendment to this added an advisory panel or an advisory committee of about 18 people that'll advise the governor on certain things dealing with the state security and also on any type of emergency coordination. I'd ask for your support for this amendment, for this bill.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute, House Bill 779, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 779, the ayes are 158, the nays are 1, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 779. If you're going to remain with us on the floor, you're going to come to order. The chair also wants to remind members and guests on the floor of the prohibition against still and video photography using cell phone cameras or any other camera. It's not permitted. So come to order. We've still got a few minutes of legislation to take up, and these are important matters. Chair recognizes Representative Carson for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House agree to the Senate amendment on House Bill 673.
Representative Carson has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 673. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 673 to be titled an act to amend Title 40, the official code of Georgia annotated relating motor vehicles and traffic so as to prohibit actions which distract the driver while operating a motor vehicle.
Chair recognizes Representative Carson.
Folks, I'm coming to you with the Hands-Free Act of Georgia for the last time this session. What this amendment says is if you are pulled over for your first charge of holding your phone, you can appear in court, show your hands-free device or receipt, and the court will require your affirmation that this is your first offense, and it will be waived. This does not apply to subsequent offenses. This is something that the Senate very much wanted. We need to go to Hands-Free Georgia and change this culture, and we're going to save lives with this legislation. I yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 673. All those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 144, the nays are 18, and this House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 673. Chair recognizes Chairman Randy Nix for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to Senate Bill 401 as amended by the Senate.
Chairman Nix has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 401. The clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 401 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 22-327 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to recognition of advanced proficiency honors courses and counseling and development of individual graduation plans.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nix to explain his motion.
Members of the House, we passed Senate Bill 401 with two amendments. We passed it 162-2. One of those amendments was by Representative Cantrell relating to training regarding sexual abuse and assault awareness training. The Senate kept that amendment. The other amendment by Representative Fleming was rejected. It was related to the Georgia Military College and the non-standard term system of five versus 4 periods. So it's the same bill we had, less Representative Fleming's amendment, and I'd appreciate your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 401, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 159, the nays are 4. and this House has agreed to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 401. Chair recognizes Representative Blackman for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we accept the Conference Committee report on House Bill 329.
Representative Blackman moves that this House adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 329. The clerk will read the Conference Committee report.
Committees on Conference on House Bill 329 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their position that the attached Committee on Conference substitute to HB 329 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Blackman to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, House Bill 329 is now TABT as our base that passed out of the House with a number of agreed upon fixes. The new and used car dealers are in support, both ACCG, GMA, public schools, and others. I would ask for you to please vote yes. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion, on the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 329, all those in favor of the adoption will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 329, the ayes are 165, the nays are 0. And this House has adopted the Committee of Conference report. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1036.
House Resolution 1036. Representative Kendrick of the 93rd and others urging the state of Georgia to fund a public awareness campaign in support of computer science education. This resolution had been forwarded to the Committee on Science and Technology. On Education, that committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick to explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This House resolution is an urging resolution to urge the state of Georgia to fund a public awareness campaign, specifically in the area of computer science, so we can get more students involved in STEAM-related fields. Hopefully there are no questions. And I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of House Resolution 1036 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 1036, the ayes are 158, the nays are 0. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Representative Efstration for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I recommend that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 993.
Representative Efstration has moved. It's moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 993. Clerk will read the caption.
House Resolution 993, proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to create a business court with statewide jurisdiction to provide for venue and uniformity of jurisdiction and powers.
Chair recognizes Representative Efstration to explain his motion.
This is the business court constitutional amendment. It would allow for House and Senate judiciary to approve the judicial nominees before their confirmation. Would ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you. I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Resolution 993, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Chair will remind the members that this requires a recorded 2/3 vote. Have all members voted? Chair, what purpose does the majority caucus whip rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that this resolution was recommended by the Court Reform Commission on which both myself and Representative Oliver sat and worked through the recommendation process, and further that this body has previously approved this resolution overwhelmingly?
I believe that to be accurate. What purpose does Representative Kelly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that we have business courts already operating in our state in multiple counties, and they've had great success, and that's what we're trying to build on here?
I think the gentleman knows whereof he speaks. Clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 993, the ayes are 120, the nays are 52. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Chairman Epps for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to the House substitute to Senate Bill 445.
Chairman Epps has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 445. Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 445 to be titled an act to amend Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating highways, bridges, and ferries so as to provide for standards for contracts entered into by the Department of Transportation.
Chair recognizes Chairman Epps to explain the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 445.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate amendment establishes coordination between the cities and counties on roadways, particularly where they're commercial driveways. I ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 445, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 150, the nays are 5, and the House has agreed to the Senate amendment to Senate Bill 445. Chair, just a minute. Now we can take up the final 5 minutes waiting on this chamber to come to order, or we can take up business. Fairly simple choice. This House will be at order. Chair recognizes Representative Perkle for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask the House to agree to the Senate substitute of HB 956.
Representative Perkle has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 956. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 956 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 50, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to veterinarians and veterinary technicians so as to change certain provisions relating to definitions relative to such chapter.
Chair recognizes Representative Perkle to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the Veterinary Practices Act. Does not substantially change what we passed in this House. Does add Representative Turner's dog bite bill and another provision to protect livestock farmers using the state vet. I yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 956, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 162, the nays are 2. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute, House Bill 956. Wait just a moment. The moment I'm about to take right now does not count toward midnight. What purpose does Representative Beasley Teague rise?
Mr. Speaker, we've had an excellent day today. It's time to go home. Thank you.
Representative Beasley Teague.
Yes, sir.
Will you answer a parliamentary inquiry?
Parliamentary inquiry, please.
Are you tired?
Yes, sir.
I thought so. I am too. Chair recognizes Representative Blackman for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 64.
Here comes something. Chair recognizes Representative Blackman for a motion. Did you make your motion? Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 64 to be entitled an act to amend Article 1, Chapter 24, Title 33 of the Fish Code of Georgia annotated relating to general insurance provisions.
Chair recognizes Representative Blackman to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, this is the same measure it passed this body with one no vote last session. The only change is a date, an effective date, in order to accommodate this session. I ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 64, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machines on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 159, the nays are 2. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 64. All right, the Senate is still going, so we're going to recognize pages and maybe do another matter or two. We're waiting on cameras and waiting on one of those. Okay, here's the posture we're in. We are not taking up any further bills. However, the Senate is transmitting and sending over two that will require action, and since they have acted and they are being transmitted, the Lieutenant Governor and I have agreed that we will stay to receive those two measures, which should be literally coming across the hall now. Please help me welcome and thank all of the pages that have been here today and have worked so hard all day long. House will be in order here just a moment so we can get the transmittals through the door. Chair recognizes Chairman Nimmer for the final time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute of House Bill 978.
Chairman Nimmer has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute House Bill 978. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 978 being titled an act to amend Article 8, Chapter 6 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to school buses so as to revise the enforcement of civil monetary penalties.
Chair recognizes Chairman Nimmer to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, you have voted on this bill several times over the past couple of years. It is a good bill. It is the bill that will save children's lives in Georgia, and I ask for your favorable consideration. And I yield the well finally.
On the gentleman's motion, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 136, the nays are 21. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 978. Chair recognizes Chairman Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's hard to follow my roommate. I'm going to miss you, buddy. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House agree to House Bill 951 as amended by the Senate.
Chairman Shaw has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 951. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 951 be titled an act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to education so as to establish a Center for Rural Prosperity and Innovation.
Chair recognizes Chairman Shaw to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Center for Rural Prosperity and Innovation that we worked on for 2 years in the Rural Caucus and that we voted on unanimously here. Maybe there might have been one no vote, I'm not sure. The Senate just did an amendment that we asked for that is an accreditation issue for the university system. So I ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
All those in favor of the gentleman's motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 160, the nays are 1. And this House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 951. Chair recognizes Chairman Meadows for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House adjourn sine die.
Actually, the rules chairman just did it, but I'm going to call on the majority leader. Chair recognizes the majority leader of the House for a motion.
It's hard to top that one, Mr. Speaker. A great day and a great year. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House now adjourn sine die.
This House is now adjourned sine die.